I got to the shelter at 6:43 a.m. The crate was already there. She was sitting inside it, perfectly still, just outside our gate. Frost had turned the metal white. Her breath came out in small clouds that disappeared before they could rise. She wasn't barking, wasn't whining, just shaking. Shaking so hard the entire crate trembled with her. Her collar was bright pink, like someone had wanted her to look pretty before they threw her away. I thought she was staring at me, but when I got close enough to see her eyes, I realized she was staring through me, past me, down the empty road behind me, watching for headlights that weren't coming. She was still waiting for them to come back. That's when I knew. This wasn't just another abandoned dog. This was something that was going to break me in a place I didn't know could still break. My supervisor, Marcus, pulled the security footage while I carried Tessie inside. She didn't struggle, didn't resist, just went limp in my arms like her body had finally been given permission to stop holding itself together. The timestamp on the screen glowed cold. 8:51 p.m. A dark sedan pulled up to our gate. 2 people got out, not rushed, not panicking, and lifted the crate from their trunk like they were unloading groceries. They set it down carefully, gently even. One of them knelt down, said something through the bars. Their lips moved for maybe 5 seconds. Then they stood up, walked back to their car, and drove away. 30 seconds. That's all it took to abandon her. Tessie watched them leave. I could see it even in the grainy footage, the way her body oriented toward those taillights, tracking them until they disappeared into nothing. Then she sat down, faced the road, and waited. The footage kept running. 9:30 p.m., a car passed. Tessie's head lifted, her ears pushed forward, her whole body tensed. The car kept going. She settled back down, slower than before. 10:15 p.m., another, then another. Each time she waited, each time she believed, each time the car disappeared and a little more of her disappeared with it. Around 1:30 a.m., something moved in the shadows near the trees. Tessie saw it, scrambled backwards so violently she slammed into the back of the crate, her mouth opened wide, barking silent in the soundless recording. The animal, raccoon probably, wandered closer. Tessie pressed herself into the corner, making herself as small as possible, and stayed there. Didn't move for almost an hour. By 4 a.m., everything had changed. She wasn't sitting anymore. She was lying down, and she wasn't watching the road. She was just gone, staring at nothing. The shaking had started by then. I could see the crate rocking slightly, rhythmic and horrible. Marcus paused the video. Temperature dropped to 26 degrees. She was out there for 10.5 hours. But I couldn't stop staring at her face frozen on the monitor at the exact moment visible on the screen when she stopped believing anyone was coming. "She thought they'd come back," I whispered. Marcus didn't answer. What could he say? The worst part wasn't the cold, wasn't the fear, wasn't even the 10 hours alone in the dark. The worst part was watching the exact moment hope died, watching it happen in real time, frame by frame, car by car, until there was nothing left in her eyes but emptiness, and knowing she'd felt every second of it. Dr. Patterson arrived just after 9 a.m. He's been our shelter vet for 14 years. I've never seen his face do what it did when he walked into the medical room and saw Tessie. She was wrapped in heated blankets, but the shaking wouldn't stop. Her temperature had climbed to 96.8, still dangerously low. Normal is around 101. Jenna, our vet tech, had been trying to get her to drink for 30 minutes. Tessie wouldn't even look at the water. Dr. Patterson knelt down slowly. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said, voice low and steady. "Let's see what we're working with." His hands moved over her body, gentle, methodical, checking joints, feeling her abdomen, examining her eyes. Tessie didn't resist, didn't pull away, didn't react at all, just stared at the wall like she'd left her body behind and gone somewhere unreachable. "Dehydrated," he murmured, "underweight by 15, maybe 20 pounds. He paused, his fingers gentle on her belly. "And look here." He lifted the fur carefully. Even I could see the scarring. "Recent pregnancy. These mammary glands are still enlarged, the stretch marks, the tearing. She delivered within the last 6, maybe 8 weeks. His jaw tightened. "Multiple litters, I'd guess. They bred her until her body couldn't give them what they wanted anymore." The room felt smaller suddenly, airless. "Then they threw her away," Jenna whispered, tears already streaming down her face. But Dr. Patterson wasn't finished. He sat back on his heels, watching Tessie with something that looked like grief. "Sarah, this isn't just hypothermia. Watch her breathing. See how shallow it is? And her eyes. She's not avoiding eye contact. She's not making eye contact. There's a difference." "What does that mean?" "Shutdown behavior." His voice was quiet. "Psychological trauma so severe her mind has retreated somewhere her body can't follow. Staying present, feeling what's happening to her became too dangerous, so she left." I looked at Tessie, at her empty stare, at the trembling that wouldn't stop even though she was warm now, safe now. "The vet told me something later I wish I'd known sooner," I said to no one. "When animals go through trauma like this, their stillness isn't rest. It's not calm. It's their brain disconnecting entirely because the alternative, staying present in that suffering, is worse than disappearing." Dr. Patterson pulled off his gloves. "Physically, we can help her. But this," he gestured toward Tessie, toward her vacant eyes and her body that shook despite the warmth. "I don't know if she comes back from this. Some dogs do." He paused. "Some don't." I stared at Tessie, at the pink collar still around her neck, at the body that had been used until it was worthless, at the mind that had fled somewhere we couldn't reach. "She has to," I whispered. But Tessie didn't move, didn't blink, didn't show any sign she'd heard me at all. And I realized surviving the night was only the beginning of the nightmare. We moved Tessie to Kennel 12, the quiet corner unit, away from the chaos. Extra blankets, soft food, fresh water. She curled into the back corner and didn't move for 4 hours. I sat outside her kennel during lunch, talking to her about nothing. The weather, the puppy adopted yesterday, how Marcus spilled coffee on himself again. She never turned her head, never acknowledged I existed. That's when Tom found me. Tom's our maintenance guy, 19 years here, keeps to himself mostly, sees everything. He lowered himself down beside me, knees cracking, and stared through the bars at Tessie for a long moment. "She gonna make it?" he asked finally. "I don't know." He nodded like he'd expected that answer. 15th one. I looked at him. "What?" "Animals left outside after we close." His voice was flat, empty. "Stopped counting after 15. That was 5, maybe 6 years ago." My chest tightened. Tom. First one was a kitten, Tabby, maybe 8 weeks. Someone put her in a cardboard box, punched holes in the top like that made it okay. He paused. "It was raining that night. Box fell apart. Found her the next morning." He didn't say she died. He didn't have to. Then there was the senior lab. Someone tied him to our fence in July, 96 degrees. Rope cut so deep in his neck I could see muscle. Tom's jaw worked. He lived. We called him Buddy. Nice dog. Got adopted 3 weeks later. But he screamed the whole time we cut that rope off. Screamed like we were killing him. Tessie shifted slightly in her kennel, still facing the wall. Worst one was the puppies, Tom said, quieter now. 5 of 'em, 6 weeks old, garbage bag by the dumpster. Only found 'em because one was still whining. He looked at his hands. 4 made it. The smallest one, she was already cold when I opened the bag, still had her eyes closed. The hallway felt too small, too close. Why are you telling me this? My voice came out broken. Because she's not the first, Tom stood slowly, and she won't be the last. And I'm tired, Sarah. I'm tired of finding them, tired of wondering how many I didn't find, how many died alone in the dark before I got here in the morning. He walked away, leaving me sitting there with the weight of 15 animals, more than 15, all the ones he'd stopped counting, all the ones left in the cold and the heat and the dark because someone couldn't wait until morning, because someone decided their convenience mattered more than a life. I looked at Tessie, at her pink collar, at her body still trembling even though she was safe now. She was lucky, Tom said. Lucky. She'd spent 10 hours believing she'd been abandoned forever. Her temperature dropped low enough to kill her. She'd been terrorized in the dark, and now her mind was so shattered she couldn't eat, couldn't function, could barely exist. But she was alive, and apparently that's what we call lucky now. I pulled out my phone and started recording, not for me, for everyone who needed to understand what just leaving them overnight actually meant, because Tessie's story couldn't end with only me knowing. Animal Control called back on day 4. Marcus put them on speaker so I could hear. We located the owners, Robert and Michelle Henderson, Riverside address. They denied it at first, but when we showed them the footage, they admitted it. What did they say? Marcus asked. His knuckles were white against the desk. They said the dog had complications with her last litter, retained placenta. Emergency vet care cost just over $2,000. After that, they decided she was, quote, not worth keeping for breeding anymore. Not worth keeping. Like Tessie was a broken appliance, a failed investment. They said they drove to your shelter specifically because they knew you'd take care of her, but they arrived after hours and didn't want to wait until morning, didn't want to, quote, bother anyone, so they just left her. I felt something hot and sharp rise in my throat. They didn't want to bother anyone, but leaving a dog outside in 26-degree weather for 10 hours, that was fine? Their words, not mine. Officer Chen sighed, and I could hear the exhaustion in it. For what it's worth, they seemed genuinely surprised what they did was wrong, kept saying it was better than dumping her on the street, better than leaving her in the woods. Better than. Like there was a hierarchy of abandonment, like choosing the least cruel option earned them credit, like Tessie should be grateful they didn't do something worse. What happens to them? Marcus asked, though his voice said he already knew. We're filing charges, animal cruelty, abandonment. They'll face fines, possible jail time, ban on ownership. A pause. But I need to be honest, cases like this, punishment is usually minimal. Maybe a $1,000 fine, community service they'll probably never complete. After we hung up, the silence in the office was absolute, just the distant sound of dogs barking down the hall. Normal shelter sounds, a normal day for everyone but us. That's it? I said finally. A fine and community service? Marcus rubbed his face. That's usually it. I thought about Tessie in Kennel 12, still not eating, still staring at walls, still shaking even though she was warm, even though she was safe. Her body was here, but her mind was still in that crate, still watching cars pass, still waiting for people who would never come back. The Hendersons would pay their fine, maybe do their community service, maybe not. Then they'd go home and forget about her. But Tessie would never forget. Her body would heal, but that moment at 4 a.m. when Hope died, that would stay with her forever. "It's not enough," I whispered. "No," Marcus agreed quietly. "It never is." Because punishment wouldn't heal Tessie, wouldn't undo those 10 hours, wouldn't give her back the piece of herself that died in the freezing dark. Justice was just a word people used to feel better about things that could never be fixed, and Tessie was still broken. Day 7. Tessie still hadn't eaten more than a few bites. Water, maybe 3 laps at a time. Dr. Patterson said her body was shutting down non-essential functions because her mind had decided survival wasn't worth the effort anymore. I sat outside her kennel every morning before the shelter opened, talked to her in the dark quiet before the chaos started. She never looked at me, never moved except for that constant trembling that wouldn't stop. "Hey, Tessie," I said that morning, my coffee going cold in my hands. "I know you can't hear me right now. I know you're somewhere else, but I'm here, and I'm not leaving." Nothing, not even a flicker. I kept talking anyway, about the weather turning warmer, about the new puppy who'd been adopted, about how Marcus had walked into the supply closet instead of his office and pretended he'd meant to do it. 45 minutes passed, my back ached, my legs had gone numb, but I didn't move. And then, so small I almost missed it, Tessie's left ear twitched. Just once, just barely, but it moved. My breath caught. "Tessie?" Her ear twitched again, responding to my voice, acknowledging I existed. "That's right, baby girl. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere." It wasn't much, the smallest possible sign of life, but it was something. After 7 days of nothing, it was everything. I told Jenna during morning rounds, trying to keep the hope out of my voice and failing completely. She smiled, actually smiled, and we went to Tessie's kennel together with soft food mixed with chicken broth. "Come on, sweet girl," Jenna said gently, setting the bowl just inside the door. "Just a little, for us." Tessie's ear twitched at Jenna's voice. Then, after what felt like forever, she turned her head, not toward us, toward the food. "That's it," I breathed. "That's it." Her nose moved slightly, taking in the scent. Her body shifted forward an inch. And then someone dropped a metal bowl in the kitchen. The clang echoed through the entire shelter like a gunshot. Tessie exploded backward, slammed into the back of her kennel so hard the impact made me flinch. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, her whole body convulsed, eyes rolling back, white and wild and gone. "No, Tessie, it's okay." Jenna reached instinctively, but Tessie was unreachable, pressed so hard into the corner she looked like she was trying to push through the concrete itself. The trembling that had been getting better came back full force, worse than before. A volunteer appeared in the doorway, pale and horrified. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean—" But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. It took 2 hours before Tessie's breathing slowed, 3 before the terror left her eyes. And when it finally did, she just stopped, went back to staring at nothing. That ear twitch, that tiny, fragile spark, extinguished like it had never existed. All that hope gone in 1 second. I pulled out my phone and added to the notes I'd been keeping. Every setback, every trigger. Someone needed to document what just one night actually cost. Someone needed to make people understand that trauma doesn't end when morning comes. Day 12. Tessie had finally started eating again. Not much, but consistent. She'd let Jenna touch her head through the bars that morning, just for 3 seconds, but she hadn't pulled away. We were in the break room celebrating with actual smiles when the volunteer coordinator walked in carrying a donation. A wire crate, medium-sized, clean, barely used. Someone left this in the bin, thought we could use it for— No! The word came out sharp, too sharp. She stopped, confused. What? Storage room, back corner, please. But she'd already set it down, right outside the break room, right where Tessie could see it from Kennel 12 if she turned her head. I walked down the hall. Tessie had turned her head. The sound started so quietly I almost didn't hear it, a whimper. Then it grew, higher, more desperate, this keening that didn't sound like any dog I'd ever heard. Her whole body shook so violently the blankets beneath her moved. "Tessie, baby, no!" I ran to her kennel, but she wasn't seeing me, wasn't hearing me. She was seeing that crate, the one she'd spent 10 hours in, the one where Hope had died. Her breathing came in rapid, panicked gasps. She backed into the corner, tried to make herself smaller, like she could disappear if she just tried hard enough. "Move the crate!" I shouted. "Now!" Someone grabbed it, carried it away, but Tessie didn't stop. The whimpering continued, broken, desperate sounds from the back of her throat. I opened her kennel door, got down on the floor, made myself small. "Tessie, that crate is gone. You're never going back, I promise." 20 minutes, 30. The whimpering faded, but she wouldn't settle, wouldn't lie down, just stayed pressed in that corner, shaking, staring at something I couldn't see. Amy, our behavior specialist, came after lunch, took one look at Tessie and closed her eyes. She's regressed, all the way back. Because she saw a crate? "That crate is the worst moment of her life," Amy said quietly. Her brain sees it and goes straight back to that parking lot, that cold, that fear. It doesn't matter that she's safe now. In her mind, she never left. I watched Tessie trembling in the corner. All that hope gone in 1 second. "How do we fix this?" Amy was quiet for a long moment. "Time, patience, and accepting that some things don't get fixed, just managed." That night, after everyone left, I sat in the parking lot and could still hear her, those soft, broken whimpers carrying through the empty building. She was still in that crate, and I didn't know how to bring her home. I sat in my car and posted another video, showed Tessie's empty kennel, played the audio of her whimpering. "This is week 2, I said. "This is what one night costs." The comments flooded in, people who had no idea. Week 4. Amy had been working with Tessie every day, slow, patient, asking nothing, just sitting nearby, letting Tessie decide everything. And slowly, impossibly, Tessie had started coming back. She'd taken a treat from Amy's hand, made eye contact that lasted 4 full seconds, walked on a leash for maybe 40 feet before freezing. It wasn't much, but it was something. That's when the Morrison family called. "We saw Tessie's story," Mrs. Morrison said. "We know what she's been through. We have experience with trauma cases." I'd screened them carefully. 2 previous rescues, both with behavioral issues. They understood patience. They understood this wouldn't be easy. But I was terrified anyway. The whole family came Saturday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Morrison and their daughter Claire, 9 years old. Quiet kid who carried a book everywhere, her mother said. I brought them to the meeting room, then went to get Tessie. My hands shook clipping the leash. "Come on, sweet girl. Time to be brave." Tessie walked beside me with her head down, tail tucked tight. When we entered the room and she saw the family, she stopped. Her whole body went rigid. Mrs. Morrison sat down on the floor immediately, made herself smaller. Her husband did the same. Claire followed without being asked. "Hi, Tessie," Mrs. Morrison said softly. "We're so glad to meet you." Tessie pressed against my legs, trembling, looked up at me with those eyes that still held too much fear. "Please don't make me." but I had to. The Morrisons didn't move, didn't reach for her, just talked quietly to each other, pretending Tessie wasn't there, giving her space. Then Claire pulled out her book. "Can I read?" Her mother nodded. Claire opened to a marked page and started reading. Some story about a girl and a horse. Her voice was clear and steady, not performing, not trying to connect, just reading because she liked to. Tessie's ear twitched. 5 minutes, 10. Claire kept reading, turning pages, completely absorbed, not trying to engage Tessie, not even looking at her, just being nearby with her calm, steady voice. And slowly, so slowly I barely noticed, Tessie began to relax. The tension in her shoulders eased, her tail untucked slightly. 15 minutes, 20? Tessie took a step forward, then another, inching toward Claire like something invisible was pulling her. Claire kept reading, didn't acknowledge her, didn't change anything. Tessie got closer, close enough to sniff Claire's shoe, then her knee, then carefully, deliberately, Tessie stretched forward and touched her nose to Claire's hand. Claire's voice caught for half a second. Then she continued reading but slowly turned her palm upward, an invitation. Nothing more. Tessie sniffed her palm once, twice, and then she licked it. Just once, gentle, tentative. It was trust. After everything, after every reason to give up on people forever, Tessie was choosing to try again. My vision blurred. And then a car backfired in the parking lot. The sound cracked through the air like a gunshot. Tessie bolted. She hit the wall so hard I heard bone meet concrete, a sickening thud that made Mrs. Morrison gasp. Then Tessie was scrambling, claws scraping linoleum, desperate to find somewhere safe, somewhere that didn't exist. She wedged herself behind a chair in the corner, her whole body convulsing, not shaking now, convulsing. Her eyes were blown wide, seeing nothing but whatever nightmare she'd been thrown back into. "Tessie!" I dropped to my knees, reaching for her, but she pressed harder into the corner, making sounds I'd never heard from her before. High, broken, not quite animal, not quite anything. The room went silent except for Tessie's ragged breathing. Claire had tears streaming down her face, her hand still outstretched where Tessie had licked it seconds before. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault, honey," Mrs. Morrison said softly, but her face had changed. The warmth was still there, but now there was something else. Worry, maybe doubt. Mr. Morrison looked at his wife. Some conversation passed between them without words. "How often does this happen?" he asked quietly. I couldn't lie to them, not when they were considering taking her home. Loud noises, crates, sometimes nothing we can identify. My voice shook. "She's better than she was, but she's got a long way to go." Will she ever fully recover? The question I'd been dreading. "I don't know," I admitted. Maybe, maybe not. Trauma like this, it changes them, sometimes permanently." Mr. Morrison looked at Tessie, still wedged in that corner, still convulsing, still somewhere else entirely. All the progress from the last hour, erased in 1 second. "Can we have a minute?" Mrs. Morrison asked. "To talk, as a family." My stomach dropped. "Of course." I coaxed her out eventually, got her back to Kennel 12. She curled, facing the wall, and wouldn't look at me. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But sorry didn't fix anything. The Morrisons were in that room for 12 minutes. It felt like hours. I stood in the hallway preparing myself for the words I knew were coming. "She's wonderful, but we're not equipped. Maybe a different dog." They'd seen how broken she was, how unpredictable. Why would they choose that? Finally, Marcus came. They want to talk to you." I walked back, building walls around hope I shouldn't feel. The Morrisons were still on the floor. Claire's eyes were red. Mrs. Morrison looked up at me and smiled. "We want to adopt her." I stared. The words didn't make sense. "You what?" "We want to adopt Tessie." She looked at her husband, then Claire. That moment before the car, when she touched Claire's hand, that was real. That was her choosing to trust again. And we want to be the family she doesn't have to be afraid to trust. Claire nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'll read to her every day, however long it takes." "But you saw," my voice broke, "she might always be like this." "We're not looking for perfect," Mr. Morrison said gently. "We're looking for her." Mrs. Morrison sent me a video on Tessie's first night home. Tessie was lying on a dog bed in the corner of their living room. Claire was reading on the floor beside her. Tessie's eyes were open, watching everything, still tense, but she was there. She'd survived the car ride, the new smells, the terror of another change. She ate a little dinner, Mrs. Morrison texted. Let Claire pet her for a whole minute. We're calling that a win. The updates kept coming. Week 2 follows Claire everywhere now, won't let her out of sight. Week 4, she played with a toy today, just for a minute, but she played. Week 8, she slept on Claire's bed last night, didn't move until morning. 3 months after the adoption, the Morrisons came back to visit. Marcus found me in the office. "You need to come out front now." They were in the lobby, all 4 of them, and Tessie, but this wasn't the dog I'd sent home. This Tessie walked in with her head up, tail wagging slowly, ears forward. She looked around the shelter like she was remembering something from long ago. Then she saw me and ran. Actually ran, pressing her whole body against my legs, tail going wild, making this sound deep in her chest that was pure joy. I dropped to my knees and she was in my arms, solid and warm and here. Her eyes were bright, clear, alive. "Hi, baby girl," I whispered into her fur. "Look at you." Everyone was crying. Claire, Mrs. Morrison, me. "She wanted to see you," Claire said softly. "She got excited when Mom said we were coming." Before they left, Mrs. Morrison showed me one last video. Tessie in their backyard, running full speed across grass, ears flying back, mouth open in a huge smile. She grabbed a toy mid-run, shook it, threw it in the air, caught it, then did it again. Pure, absolute joy. "This is her now," Mrs. Morrison said quietly, "every single day. She still has bad moments. Loud noises still scare her, but most of the time, she's just a happy dog." I watched that video until I'd memorized every frame. This was the same dog I'd found shaking in a crate 6 months ago, the same dog who wouldn't eat, who couldn't function, who'd given up hope at 4 a.m. in the freezing dark. And now she was running through grass, playing, living. Tessie survived. She thrived. But I think about the others. The 15 Tom stopped counting. The ones who weren't found in time. The ones who died from exposure, from fear, from giving up. The ones so broken they never came back. All because someone couldn't wait until morning. We made changes after Tessie. New signs outside the shelter, impossible to miss. 24/7 surveillance. Animal abandonment is a crime. Call our emergency hotline. The number right there in bold. We set up a volunteer network, someone available now at 3 a.m. at any hour. We'd talk people through options, connect them with resources, find temporary fosters. We partnered with vets for payment plans, started community education programs, built an emergency placement network. Because maybe if the Hendersons had known they had options, Tessie wouldn't have spent 10 hours in that crate. The campaign launched 2 months later. Wait until morning. It could save a life. I made a video, showed Tessie's footage, the couple abandoning her, Tessie watching cars, that 4 a.m. moment when she gave up, then Tessie now running and playing in the Morrisons' yard. This is what happens when you don't wait, I said, but it doesn't have to be this way. The video went viral, over 1 million views in a week. Other shelters reached out, implementing similar programs. The messages came, people thanking us, people admitting they'd almost abandoned their pet but saw our signs, called the number, found help. One message: I was going to leave my dog outside your shelter last night, but I called instead. You connected me with a vet doing payment plans. My dog is home with me right now. Thank you. That's one life, one animal who didn't have to suffer because we made it easier to do the right thing. Tessie got her chance, and because of her, hundreds of others would get theirs too. 6 months later, Mrs. Morrison sent a final photo. Tessie asleep in sunlight on their living room floor, Claire's hand resting on her side, both peaceful, both safe, both home. Our shelter is open 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. 7 days a week. Emergency hotline 555-0199. If you need help, we're here. Just call. Just wait. Just give them the chance Tessie got. Because on the other side of that crate in the freezing dark is a living being counting on you to do the right thing. Please, just wait until morning. Tessie spent 10 hours in the freezing dark and never stopped believing someone would come back. You watched her whole story. Don't let it end with just watching. Hit subscribe so more people see this, so more animals get the chance Tessie did. One button. That's all it takes to be part of the solution instead of the silence.